Hello everybody and welcome to History Bite number 224, dated April 6th, 2021. I'm Walter, your mobile historian and blue-collar scholar. This History Bite is entitled, How the United States Acquired Hawaii. Here I'm holding a 3x5 flag of the Hawaiian Islands. This is the state flag of Hawaii, but it was previously the national flag of the Kingdom of Hawaii. Okay? The flag, accordingly, I've had this flag for over 20 years, by the way, and it's still in pretty good condition, very good condition, in fact. The stripes on the flag, somewhat resemblant to the stripes of the American national flag, represent the main Hawaiian islands, okay? Just like our stripes represent the original 13 states. And the British Union Jack right here in the upper left-hand quadrant represents Hawaii's historic friendship with the United Kingdom. Okay, some housekeeping first, folks. Hawaii, of course, is America's 50th state. You all already knew that, all right? It is also the only U.S. state that is composed entirely of islands, okay? Located in the Central Pacific, thousands of miles from the U.S. mainland, okay? Hawaii is the only U.S. state that was once an independent kingdom. That's right. Hawaii had a royal family, an organized government, and a very well-organized society before the arrival of Europeans and certainly before the arrival of these guys. Okay? So, how exactly did the Kingdom of Hawaii become a part of the United States of America? Well, it wasn't something that happened overnight. That's for darn sure. American influence over Hawaii that eventually led to the U.S. subjugation of the islands was something that arguably took almost 50 years from beginning to end. Okay? Now, American businessmen had been moving to Hawaii ever since the 1830s, hoping to profit and exploit, the island's vibrant sugar trade, all right, which, produced considerable wealth. Pineapples also were a very prominent source of wealth in Hawaii, okay? Before I go any further, I just want to add, as Hawaii was a sovereign kingdom, it had diplomatic relations with most of the world's powers of the day, including these guys right here, okay? So if there's any doubt as to whether or not Hawaii was a sovereign, thriving country, put it all to bed, as it was indeed, okay? Back to where I was. American businessmen began flooding the island in great droves, okay? And some became incredibly wealthy and prominent, all right? And thus, with that, American influence, increased tremendously on the islands in the period between the 1840s and the 1880s, okay? So much so, in fact, that prominent American businessmen who, had married into important circles and the royal families itself, even served in royal cabinets, okay? So it was inevitable that the influence of the United States of America would soon begin to play a large part in Hawaii's political and economic affairs, all right? With time, the U.S. soon saw Hawaii as, more than just, a valuable set of islands for sugar and pineapples, but also as a potentially strategic military asset. In our interest in Pearl Harbor, we started to say, ooh, that's a nice place to establish a military base, all right? But, King Kalakaua was, not very, very inclined to allow the U.S. this much power, he saw the writing on the wall that, you give this and these guys are going to take a mile. He wasn't a fool. But eventually a treaty was reached in 1875 whereby the U.S. was given the ability to use Ford Island, okay, situated inside of Pearl Harbor. All right. And in 1887, all right, the United States began leasing Pearl Harbor. So eventually, he caved in with a desire to promote peace with the U.S. and not have more devastating results for his own country. All right. But that wasn't good enough for some. In 1887, in an event known as the Rebellion of 1887, the Hawaiian Patriotic League led a revolt which effectively forced a new constitution upon the Kingdom of Hawaii, all right, and upon King Kalakaua, all right. That constitution, which was essentially drawn up by one of those powerful American businessmen, Lawrence Thurston, effectively neutered the authority of the monarch, disenfranchised most native Hawaiians from voting, and more or less restricted the franchise to the wealthy white business owners and planters, all right? So Americans and Europeans, all right? And, King Kalakaua was forced to sign this, more or less at gunpoint. So it was either sign this or be overthrown. So his hands were tied. He had no choice. And this 1887 Constitution of Hawaii was arguably the first step toward the end of the Kingdom of Hawaii. All right. So King Kalakaua, having been all but deprived of any real power, died in 1891. All right, and was succeeded by his sister, Queen Lilly. All right, she would be the last monarch of the Kingdom of Hawaii. All right, now Queen Lilly, who I will refer to as Queen Lilly for time-saving purposes, was a bit more firm than her brother, and indeed she sought to replace the 1887 Constitution with the revised proposed Constitution of 1893, which would have restored the power of the monarch and taken away the voting rights of these foreign-born white European and American businessmen, planners, and so forth and so on. And you know as well as I do, they weren't about to have that. All right. After their success in getting King Kalakaua to sign this bayonet constitution, they were not about to let Queen Lilly, reverse that progress. How dare she feel that Hawaii should be governed by Hawaiians? The audacity, the nerve of Queen Lilly to think that these guys and Europeans should not govern Hawaii. Who did she think she was in their minds? That's the American way. And like I've told you in the other videos, with the U.S., it's always the same thing. We can do it the easy way or we can do it the hard way, but it's gonna happen. All right? So they're more or less alike. Take the easy road. Because if it's bloodshed, it's not going to be a pretty thing. All right? So, with Queen Lilly, in seeking to replace the 1887 Constitution with the much improved 1893 Constitution, plans were made by the Committee of Safety, which was an organization of American-born and American and other foreign-born Hawaiians, all right? Hawaiians by assimilation, not by birth. Basically, wealthy whites living in Hawaii, very wealthy, powerful whites living in Hawaii. Plans were made by them, that Committee of Safety, aided by the Hawaiian other armed individuals, as well as upon the request of U.S. Minister John Stevens, the U.S. Marines, okay, although they didn't directly involve themselves in the matter. their show of force certainly helped facilitate it, these lovely people staged a coup d'etat to overthrow Queen Lilly and establish a provisional government for the Kingdom of Hawaii. Okay? And all of this happened on the 14th of January, 1893. All right? And specifically what happened was, their show of force propelled Queen Liliuokalani to step down in favor, deference to the United States, okay, hoping that the United States would restore her to her throne, okay, as this was an unlawful coup d'etat staged essentially by American businessmen, aided by armed civilians and others, okay? And on January 17th, 1893, Queen Liliuokalani, all right, was officially proclaimed to be overthrown by Henry Cooper, all right? And effectively with this proclamation, illegally, the Hawaiian monarchy was officially declared dissolved, and a new provisional government was established in Hawaii from January 17, 1893 until July 4th, 1894. At that point, a new Republic of Hawaii, all right, was proclaimed, all right? But before we get into that, with the overthrow, the illegal overthrow of Queen Liliuokalani, all right, President Cleveland was flabbergasted, all right, and commissioned an investigation that would become known as the Blount Report, all right, the Blount Report, which concluded in its investigation that the coup d'etat had been essentially illegal from top to bottom, although a report was not necessary. Everybody knew that, all right? Congress was a little pissed off at President Cleveland that he didn't include them in the matter, so they issued their own investigation, which became known as the Morgan Report, which pretty much found everybody else except the Queen to be not guilty, with respect to this coup d'etat, all right? Now, the Queen did not resist the actions of the Committee of Safety back in 1893 because she knew she was outnumbered and there was very little she could do anyway, okay? So with that in mind, President Cleveland opposed annexation of Hawaii and urged the provisional government to restore the Queen to the throne, which they absolutely positively refused to do, okay? So essentially Cleveland was in the way of the intentions of the Republic of Hawaii, which wanted to be annexed to the United States, led by its president, Sanford B. Dole. That name sound familiar? Dole, as in Dole pineapple? Yep, that's the guy. Same guy, all right? Very wealthy and established Hawaii pineapple businessman, all right? So, once Cleveland was out of office, and the very pro-annexation president, William McKinley, took office in 1897. A treaty was drawn up for the annexation of the Republic of Hawaii to the United States. But guess what, folks? The U.S. Senate rejected that treaty outright due to the profound opposition of many, many individuals, American and Hawaiian, all right, to annexation, including the now deposed Queen Liliuokalani herself. Okay? So, to get around this, Congress passed what was known as the Newlands Resolution in July of 1898. The Newlands Resolution officially declared Hawaii annexed to the United States. And this was illegal because annexation of another nation, which Hawaii was recognized clearly to be, okay, whether republic or monarchy, all right. In this case, at this point, it was a republic. You don't just annex a country by way of a congressional resolution and then have it signed by the president? No, we do it by a treaty that was rejected by the Senate. Nevertheless, this is how it was procured by way of the Newlands Resolution, which provided for the annexation of the Republic of Hawaii to the United States of America. On August the 12th, 1898, the formal ceremony took place whereby Hawaii formally became a part of the United States of America. A sad day indeed for Hawaii. And ceremony resulted in the national flag, of Hawaii being lowered for the last time at the Iolani Palace in Honolulu, and the U.S. flag being raised over that palace. All right? And so very few Native Hawaiians participated in said ceremony. Like I said, the only people who benefited from this were the wealthy American businessmen, the only ones who had benefited from it since day one. Okay? And in the year 1900, Congress passed an organic act formally, creating the territory of Hawaii, all right, that provided a territorial government headed by a governor appointed by the President of the United States, as well as a territorial legislature and a Supreme Court, all right. Hawaii remained in this status until the 21st of August, 1959, when it became America's 50th state, all right? According to the referendum that was taken in the territory before it was formally admitted, the Hawaiians had either two choices: to vote for either statehood or to remain a territory. They were not given the option of independence, something that Puerto Rico has been given, all right? Every time a plebiscite was taken in the territory, all right? So that is something that has definitely aroused some controversy among many, all right? And a colleague of mine who is a resident of the state of Hawaii certainly made known to me many of these compelling facts with respect to the illegality of America's presence in Hawaii in that time period, and their unlawful overthrow of the Hawaiian government. All right, as nothing arguably was legitimate about the process from day one, from the overthrow of Queen Lilly to the technically unconstitutional process of the annexation of Hawaii. None of it. And the failure to offer Hawaii independence as a possible option, as opposed to remaining a territory or statehood. All right. And so with that said, Hawaii has been America's 50th state since the 21st of August, 1959. And it is one of the most prosperous, beautiful, to say the very least, and bluest states in the whole country. Gotta love it. The tropical paradise of Hawaii. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how the United States obtained the Hawaiian Islands. Any questions or controversies, please leave them down below and I'll be happy to answer them. If you like this video, learn a thing or two from it, I'm so glad. It was a lot of work compiling this information, and, drop me a like if you certainly gain some perspective from this, and last but not least, if you'd like to donate to my channel financially, there are links provided for you to do so. The story of Hawaii and its relationship to the U.S. is a very interesting one, certainly one that is deserving of more attention. And before I go, I'd like to add a very important thing. In 1993, Congress passed an apology resolution for America's role in the overthrow of the Kingdom of Hawaii 100 years earlier. Okay, so take a look more into that to see exactly what that apology resolution entailed. Take care, Stay safe out there, and I'll talk to you at the next bite. Peace.